Police body-worn cameras are now a standard tool of the trade for thousands of officers in the United States. One survey says 96% of all major police forces in the U.S. have piloted or implemented body cameras. But they hardly exist in Canada. Most police departments are unconvinced the cameras are worth the time or the money. But there's also a price to be paid by not investing in the cameras. Chatham, Ontario, July 2015. A group of teenagers gets together to celebrate the summer. Jake Anderson was there. Then 17 years old, a popular kid and solidly built student athlete. It starts with a house party but ends with the teenager looking like this after a violent run-in with the police. What happened between Jake and the Chatham Kent police is in dispute, but both sides agree on how it all began. Jake and his girlfriend were walking through the cemetery across from the house party. They'd both been drinking that night. Police were called in, responding to a noise complaint. Officer Fraser Curtis went to investigate. According to Jake, this is what happened.
He had his pistol out and he was pointing it at us. And he told my girlfriend to come to him, and he like isolated me, and I was just like, at first I was confused, like why he had his gun out and like why he was like being aggressive towards me, because he was swearing at me and telling me to shut up and sit down. And I really was just trying to understand why he was there and what was happening.
Curtis sent the two on their way. Later, as Jake and his girlfriend are getting a lift home from his cousin, they pass a group of police officers, and Jake gives them the finger. Another officer, John DeForest, pulls the car over. They come face to face outside Jake's house. Again, this is Jake's version.
He's like, do you have ID? And I'm like, no, I'm only 17. I don't have any ID on me. And I just went to take a step, and then he grabbed me and pushed me, and then that's when it all took place in the road. And then another officer pulled up, and he hopped out of his car, and as the other one had me around the neck, that one started hitting me.
Police have a very different version. We obtained their reports. Both officers said an aggressive and intoxicated Jake started the confrontation. When they tried to arrest him, they claim he fought violently and broke free. They said he tripped and then threw some wild punches. They would finally subdue him. His dad, Ty Roberts, had to get him out of jail the next morning. He was furious with Jake.
I just looked at him and just shook my head. He didn't have no shirt on. He had scratches on him and all that stuff, but I just looked at him and shook my head. And when we left, when we got in the car, I was asking him, what did you do on assaulting police officers? You know how stupid that is, right? And he said, I didn't do nothing wrong. I promise you I didn't do nothing. And I didn't believe him.
Why didn't you believe him?
They made it sound very believable. They did.
The police made it sound
very believable. Very.
Chatham Kent police don't wear body cameras, so it was their word against Jake's. If convicted, he'd have a police record that would follow him for life. But when Jake arrived home after his night in jail, he made a critical discovery that would change everything.
When I got home, and my whole family was sitting on the porch, and they're like, almost like crying. They're like, why would you do this? And I was just like, I didn't do anything. And they all went inside, and I was still sitting out there, and I looked up, and I realized that there was a camera. So I got jolted, and I got shocked.
Perched on the front porch, a security camera a few meters from where the confrontation with police took place that night. The camera caught most, but not all, of what happened. There was no sound. The images are somewhat grainy. Watch at the top of the screen as Jake and his girlfriend arrive in front of his house. You can see the flashing police lights as a cruiser pulls up behind them. There appears to be a scuffle, and what happens for the next 41 seconds is out of view of the camera, and we don't know who was throwing the punches. But then suddenly, Jake flies into view, into the rock garden in front of his house. Watch what happens next.
But then I felt an officer pick me up, and he was picking me up to put cuffs on, but I got hit in the head maybe 6 times.
Hit with what?
A fist. He was a pretty big guy, so those are some pretty big blows to the head.
Remember, both police officers reported Jake was on his back throwing punches.
But then I felt a jolt in my back.
What was that?
A taser.
How many times do you think they hit you with the taser?
It was hard to tell. I got hit in the neck, got hit both sides of my neck. I got hit in the chest, right in the back a couple times.
Both police officers also reported Jake was jolted by the taser not in the back, but onto the stomach area as he threw punches at the officers.
The whole time I was just trying, I was yelling help.
After seeing the video, Jake's dad now believed his son was the victim of police brutality.
He ran up towards you.
Yeah.
So they was basically just beating you up.
Yeah. That's when I was just begging them to stop tasing me.
You can't be going around beating up teenagers. Even if you thought he was a grown man, you can't be going around beating up and tasing people. You can't do it. Because they're cops, so they can do it and get away with it and lie about it.
How do you explain how quickly that escalated from one thing to the next?
My image. Like, being a young black teen, I think that, like, if I was in the police, like, if I was a police officer and a young black teen, I think he's cocky and he's trying to be bigger than me, so I feel like I have to be bigger than him, and I think that's what the situation was.
Chatham police didn't know part of the incident had been recorded, but they discovered the surveillance camera on a later visit to the house. By then, Jake and his dad had hired defense lawyer David Sander, who watched the video and compared it to the police reports filed from that night.
So I take a look at that and I say, where is this leading me in my head? Something is getting covered up. Something is happening here that is trying to make it difficult for anybody to believe what this young black man says.
Jake's dad filed a complaint accusing the officers of assault, racial discrimination, and lying in their reports. The Fifth Estate obtained the report from the internal police investigation. One officer admitted he was wrong in his recall of Jake's arrest, while the other conceded the circumstances seemed incorrect when viewed against the video. Still, the investigation concluded the complaints against the officers were unsubstantiated, but they were reprimanded for neglect of duty for filing incomplete reports. However, the video did exonerate Jake. Once the Crown watched it, the charges of assault and resisting arrest were dropped.
If it had been the credibility of Jake versus the credibility of the police, in the absence of the video, what would have happened?
That would have been a very difficult case for a defense lawyer to try. To put up 17-year-old black kid, 16-year-old blonde girlfriend coming home from a party against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers, all of whom have no motive to lie. Who has a motive to lie? The person that's accused.
Jake knows it was a fluke. He was saved from a conviction thanks to that well-placed surveillance camera. That's why he feels Chatham police should be required to wear body cameras.
I don't think they would have done the things they did if they knew they were being recorded, but they didn't know they were being recorded. We were in an area where nobody was watching. They're free to do whatever they want.
So the cameras could help police the police.
Yeah, if the police officer has a camera, then I feel like it would solve a lot of problems. Every time I think about it, it's like, I never thought I would have to yell help from while I'm being held by police officers.
Now, if this incident had happened just an hour down the road here in quiet Amherstburg, it would have likely been caught on camera. With just 16 frontline officers, Amherstburg is the only police force we found in Canada currently using body cameras. Oh, well, there's also the police department in Cornwallis, Manitoba, a police force of 1. Not exactly a huge endorsement of the new technology. Several big city departments like Montreal have launched pilot projects. Calgary police began wearing the body cameras but pulled them off the street due to technical problems. Toronto Police Service has announced after their pilot project it wants all 3,200 frontline officers equipped with cameras. Inspector Mike Barsky is the project lead. He says the cameras improve policing by letting the public know they're being watched.
I think there's a perception in the public that these cameras can help police the police. But from your perspective, it can also help sort of police the public as well.
And there's certainly suggestion that the camera does just that. Everybody seems to behave better with the cameras on. We deployed our cameras in the Danzig area of the city, one of the most violent homicide scenes that we've had in this city. And even those people that we know to be involved in criminal activity in those areas. We're polite and cordial with our officers while they're on camera. So,
Why do you think that is?
well, you know, even a bad guy doesn't want his face on any sort of medium where he's being rude and disrespectful. As do our officers not want to be rude and disrespectful when they're on camera. And so, you know, we're in a world of social media. We're in a world of you know, rapidly increasing and evolving technology. Body-worn cameras is just one more piece to that puzzle.
Man, put it on the ground.
But with the growing use of these cameras comes controversy. There are concerns about privacy and concerns that it's still up to police when to turn the cameras on or off.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground. God damn it.
So, like in this example from the US, police will still control what we can or can't see.